Hello, friends. We're live. All right. Looks like we're 2 minutes early, so I will give everybody a couple minutes to come in. My lovely co host Sarah with me tonight,
Hello.
and we have her on her own mic and her own camera. We're all getting so grown up over here. She talks quiet, so I'm turning hers up a little bit. Okay. Let's see. All right. Woo. It's been a long day, huh?
It has.
Sarah goes to bed early, anyways. And today, what time did you get up?
5 o'clock.
5 a.m. Yeah. So So if she just keels over and passes out in the middle of this, y'all know why.
I promise I won't. This is way too exciting of a subject to fall asleep during, right?
Yes, it should be. It's gonna be a good one. Alright. So, let's make sure that everything is working. Okay. Yep, we are live. Alright. Actually, let's give it one more minute. Oh, no. Stay to my word, 9 o'clock. We got 15 peeps here right now. Thank you, guys. This is gonna be a fun one. It's been a wild week. A lot going on in the world. We're gonna try to stick to, like, you know, the topic at hand, but, we might wiggle around a little bit. So make sure y'all put your comments in the chat, whatever it's called, and Sarah will monitor that. We'll go over as many of them as we can, and we got some emailed ones in too, so we have a lot of really good comments already, but, you know, you guys get, like, VIP treatment because 'cause you're here, so you're here on the live, your comments get special attention.
That's
But
right.
if you ever can't be here, always just email them in as well. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Hello, friends. Welcome to another Conscious Observers Live. My name is Jordan, and I have my lovely co-host Sarah with me.
Hello, world.
Howdy, howdy. And yeah, like I said before, now that we have some new people in here, drop your comments in here. This is a live Q&A, so we will go through as many questions as possible. I'm also going to show the map that I have for the future possible future of America. So we can kind of dive into that and we go over the safe zones and not so safe zones. I've had a lot of requests for the map. I almost didn't share it just because I don't want people to see it and like sell their house or do anything dramatic, because like this is all just maybes. But it's interesting. And especially this map in particular, this is super interesting. So I think y'all get a kick out of this. So all right, everybody. And of course, this will be if you don't catch the whole thing, whatever, this will be posted on the YouTube channel afterwards. So you can go back and watch it. All right, let's just get into it, guys. So everybody here. All right, so this week was remote viewing week. So I on Tuesday I kind of went deep dive into remote viewing. It is history of it, all that fun stuff. And then I my thoughts on sort of the time component of it and how it really works and what it really means, and I thought that was super interesting, a lot of people like that, and then Thursdays just kinda popped off. It was crazy. So, like, I look at these stats on my podcast because it's new, and I appreciate every one of y'all for watching. It means the world to me, and the stats, it grows. It's been growing for a while. It's been cool.
Yeah,
Sarah's my super
good,
manifester, and
good steady growth.
yeah, and every day she's very encouraging, and, she has her little mantras that she says that I get a kick out of. What do you say all the time?
Fastest growing podcast in America. Fastest growing podcast in America.
Yes, she's putting that out there. So,
Say
and
it with me, friends.
yes, I love it. But, like, it's like it's kind of slow growth, and then all of a sudden, on Thursday, I was like, I thought there was a problem with, like, the reporting software. So I was like, "What's go," like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why did it just shoot up? And then it just, it kept going and going and going, and I was like, "Okay, well, something's wrong, obviously." Then we started Googling, 'cause I was like, "Well, maybe, like, I got shouted out by somebody. Who knows?" There's people out there, they have big audiences, sometimes they shout things out. So, okay, maybe somebody shouted me out, but nothing. So I was like, "Okay, like, so what the heck?" And then as I started talking to people, this is just a very, very interesting topic. People are I think the main thing is it's weird right now in the world.
Yeah,
So
it is very
everyone's
weird.
everyone's like, "What's gonna happen next?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think there's a lot of interest in, like, what's coming, like, trying to make sense of the weirdness and trying to kind of predict, like, where this is all headed, right?
For sure.
So, it really felt like there was a lot of that, and I get that. I mean, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just like y'all. I'm watching this all going, "What the hell?" Like, "What is everyone doing out there? Stop it." So, I'm just as interested in the future. So this I think this topic, 2050 report is super interesting because like I go over in the podcast, and I'll just go a quick recap because I know there's some people watching this tonight that maybe didn't watch the podcast. But the way that Stephen Schwartz, who is one of the most prolific remote viewers of all time, he does his remote viewing completely different than anybody else. He uses something called the Mobius system, which is a net. So he gets a network of remote viewers, thousands of. He had 4 to 6,000 remote viewers for this 2050 project over decades, and then they take all that data and they have them remote view one specific place or point in time in the future. So in this case, it was what he did with people is he said, wherever you are right now, remote view that place on this exact date, 2050. And then everyone just came back and they said, "Okay, here's what I saw." And then they compiled all this data and they bring in so what they do is they compile it first and then they, use different systems to analyze the data and find right? So if someone's like, you know, say, 500 people saw the same event or described the same thing, then all of a sudden the system is like, "Okay, well, there's something here." And then it will deep dive into that. It'll say, "Okay, there's something here. Let's deep dive. Let's try to figure out how it came to this, what this means, and all that kind of stuff." So instead of having one person remote view or somebody channel or like a prophetic person give like a prophecy of the future, this is literally like tens of thousands of pages of data in this very intricate system, all overseen by like scientists and engineers, like Stephen Schwartz, the scientist himself. So it was really interesting. So then, when all this data came out and they were able to put this report together and say, "Okay, here's what we saw," there's all these trends. And like when I first saw this like 5 years ago, I was like, "This doesn't make any sense," because they're
Yeah.
talking about like civil war and they're talking about the federal government collapsing and they're talking about states being divided between red and blue lines. And I was like, "Well, we're nowhere near any of that. Like that doesn't make any sense." That was 5 years ago when I first
Right?
came across this data. And now I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, oh, it's starting to I mean, that's not a crazy idea anymore,
Yeah.
right? And, so, if no one knows what I'm talking about, if someone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, what he saw in some of the data, and we'll go over some of the more important parts of the data, but part of it was that our federal government collapses and basically the states clump into, like, groups, regions, kind of along party lines, ideological lines, and they form, like, little miniature countries or, like, jumbo states. Um, so
Jumbo.
jumbo yeah. And then people, eh, I won't get into it. Let me go through the questions because 'cause that'll explain a lot more of this. But, but they saw the future in 2050, which isn't like a super long time from now if you think about it. I mean,
It's not, but, like, when you think about how much things have changed in the last 25 years, you know?
yes,
Like,
it's 25 years from now.
technology and that kind of stuff, you
Yeah.
know?
I
Like,
mean,
it's kinda crazy, like,
you're right.
you know,
Yeah.
like, to think of what will be in another.
The world hasn't changed. Like, we still have the same kind of cars and airplanes and houses, and we dress the same. The technology has gone bonkers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
And if you think about,
exactly.
like, where AI is gonna be in 25 years and
Yeah,
stuff like that, like, who knows? Like, I couldn't
yeah,
predict that, you know?
yeah,
So we'll get into some of those predictions because he goes into AI. He goes into energy, how people, you know, like, travel, all sorts of things, the hospital system, like, we go into a lot,
yeah,
and, uh, and it's super interesting, and he said the reason he doesn't do further off ones, like, he doesn't remote view, like, 500 years in the future and stuff like that, because he's like, it wouldn't make any sense because say you saw something, you wouldn't have any context, like, it just wouldn't make any sense. It's like if you showed someone an iPhone 100 years ago,
yeah,
they wouldn't get it. If you explained it to them, it wouldn't make sense. They'd be
yeah,
like, "What is GPS? What is AI? Like, what is the
yeah.
internet?" Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, I think even, like, you bring up AI, I think that if you even tried to tell us, I don't know, get let's just use the 25 year, but, like, if you would've said 25 years ago that it would literally be in everybody's, like, hands,
Yeah,
like, to where, like, everybody was using it in a very easy way, we would be like, "No way." Like,
yeah.
you know what I
Like, you have a
mean?
PhD level, like, assistant
Yeah,
in your pocket
yeah,
at all
at all
times.
times.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't have made sense,
Yeah.
you know? People have been like, "How's it fit in your pocket?"
Yeah.
Then you'd have to explain the iPhone, so,
A
yeah.
magical rectangle.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is wild how fast stuff goes. So, um So anyways, let's just go ahead and dive into some of these questions. I know we have good ones tonight, and I don't wanna keep people waiting. So, what do we got here, Sarah? Let's go through these. Tell me if anything pops out of you. Any insights into the Yellowstone caldera from remote viewing? Thanks, Ethan. You know what? So he talks a lot about the regions of America, and he goes to the 3 major migrations. And the 3 major migrations are out of the cities for the most part, out of the, coastal areas, so anything right on the coast, and then out of the Southwest. And one of the areas and you'd be interested to hear this, Ethan, he actually lives Stefan lives up in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know exactly where. So, it doesn't seem like Yellowstone does anything significant because that's where he lives there based on his data, and he knows more about this than anyone. He hasn't released certain things because he doesn't wanna create panic. He also hasn't released certain things because he actually invests, which I can't really blame him. Like, say you figure out some, like, advanced tech, instead of telling the world, you just go and, like, invest in the companies that are creating it, so
Yeah.
totally get it. I actually had the chance to ask him a question. We went to a symposium
Yep.
last year with, Tom Campbell, and it was Tom Campbell and a bunch of other amazing people, and one of the people was Stefan Schwartz. And I actually got to ask him a question. I have a video of it. And the question I asked him was about the what I think is LENR, which is low energy nuclear reactions. The little almost like it's not 0 point energy, but it's like very, very low energy in and tons of energy out kind of a device. And I asked him, and he gave me this very like,
Vanilla.
yeah, beat around the bush answer. And I was like, oh, I thought I was going to be able to get something out of him, but I'm pretty convinced that he's invested in those companies. So, anyways, maybe if we could see his stock portfolio, we would know, right? If I can find that.
Maybe things to invest in.
Anyways, Ethan, answer your question about Yellowstone. He lives up in the Pacific Northwest, and he didn't never say anything about that area. That area seems safe. Maybe not right on the coast, but overall that seems safe. So I don't think Yellowstone goes kaboom anytime in our lifetimes. So thank you, Kathy. What do we got here, guys? What do we got? Are we in a safe zone? Are we moving to a safe zone? So, you know what? Let's just show this map. Let me, add it to the stage. Okay. So, don't panic, okay? This is this is but here's something very fascinating about this map. This is called technically the Gordon, Michael Scallion map, and, you know, y'all might have heard of this before. He was well known in the '80s and '90s. He was a channeler, I guess, self-professed channeler, but he actually what said he was a prophet, and, he had a series of, like, these kind of prophetic visions, and he drew this map. The craziest thing is I like this Gordon Michael guy. The craziest thing is it perfectly aligns with Edgar Cayce, and Edgar Cayce talked a lot about the future of America, and he went into detail about certain areas that were underwater, he went in detail about, all sorts of things, and when you actually look at and I even went to ChatGPT and had it do a deep dive on what Edgar Cayce said, his predictions of the future of America. He didn't give precise timelines, Edgar Cayce didn't, but, I mean, he gave general timelines, but, Gordon Michael gave precise timelines, and, their 2 maps, like, overlay perfectly. So this map here is sort of a hybrid of Gordon Michael's and Edgar Cayce's, and you can see that, you know, a lot of South Florida, you know, is gone, you know, underwater. We're not talking about, like, 100 feet underwater, we're talking about basically so he would, like, have the people remote view the future and where they are right now. So say you're just in Miami and, you know, he's like, "Okay, on this date in 2050, tell me what you see," and the people go through the whole thing. Put all the data down, draw the pictures, all the feelings, sensations, all that, typical remote viewing session, but by the thousands. And some people would just be like, "Okay, you know, um, it's wet where I am, you know, you know, there's water up to my knees, da, 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 da." And they're remote viewing where they are exactly, like, location-wise. So, he was able to take people's, um, like, 'cause they plot out on these maps in the Mobius system where exactly where each person is in the world. So, people that are talking about how they're underwater or in water or wet or stuff like that, they're able to, like, plot on a map basically, "Okay, based on this, like, we can kinda tell where the water's coming up to, like, where, you know, where the coastlines have come in." And, you know
Super
it is.
like, how to do it with that pinpoint,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And a lot of people would just say things like, they're standing in shallow water, you know? It's like, okay, so they're not underwater. So this is not like tsunami flood type thing. What he kind of surmised is that it seems like the most likely explanation is glaciers melting, not from what we typically think of climate change, but actually from the Earth heating up. There's like this geothermal effect. There's this thing that happens with the flows of the oceans. I forget the precise name of it, but it's like slowing down, and they're afraid that if it kind of stalls out, it kills off these sort of like jet streams that are in the ocean, and that it can make the oceans heat up, I guess, and that the glaciers would actually melt from underneath. It would just sort of like thaw out,
Yeah,
and they're huge. So it
yeah,
doesn't take much to raise the sea level 6 inches or something like that. I mean, it takes a lot, but these glaciers are huge.
yeah.
Look at the size of
Well,
Antarctica.
we're what? How many? Like 80 sea
We're
level?
88 feet above sea level here, but we're
88, y'all. We climb a mountain every
we're in the
day.
3rd highest elevation, so most
We're
people
safe, guys.
yeah, we're safe. But I mean, think about how many places are, like, 1 foot above sea level, right? So it doesn't take much for that to,
Yeah.
be underwater. So you can also see on this map,
On, like, places that are under, like, like New Orleans and
oh, yeah,
stuff that's already
definitely doesn't take much there. And you can see, like, the Mississippi River here, you know, obviously, like, this water's gonna push in, and it's gonna connect what they think to the Great Lakes. They have these Great Lakes, and they're, like, size of little miniature oceans themselves, and if this water pushes in and connects the Mississippi, to the Gulf, to the Great Lakes, I mean, that's a lot of water.
yeah,
So, everything along there looks like it's gonna get pretty wet. And then all the coast, I mean, on the East Coast, you got so many big cities right by the water, you know? I mean, not just New York City, but think about New York City is what's that, 15,000,000 people, something like that, and it's right on the water, and it shows it underwater. So anyways,
but what
um,
is this coming up I see over here
right
off the
here,
coast of Florida? No,
over here.
next look, like, off the coast of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So, that's super interesting, huh?
so
Um,
Atlantis is coming back.
yeah, you know how they talk about how Atlantis is, like, off the
Alright,
Bahama
mermaid
yeah,
friends, here we
the
go.
Bermuda Triangle? Good eyes there, and it tells you it's hard to I can't zoom in here, but it tells you what that is. But, yeah, there's a landmass that, Edgar Cayce saw too. He actually saw a lot of land masses because what Edgar Cayce saw was more, Gordon Michael, Cowan, what he saw more was a pole shift type of situation where if, um if everything shifts a little bit, right?
Yeah,
It's not just that areas are getting flooded, it's that everything is shifting, and
yeah,
there's a possibility that, like, the crust itself
yeah.
shifts. Like, you have, like, a peel on, like, an orange, like, if the peel
Mhm.
itself kinda
Yeah,
shifts, so then you have a situation where things that are now underwater are above water, and things that are above water are underwater.
yeah,
So you have the rise of full land masses, and, imagine if, like, say, Antarctica, which so many people think is possibly Atlantis, or at least there's some shady stuff going on there for sure. If that thaws out, that'd be pretty interesting, and then if all of a sudden you have places rise out of the sea, you know, and
yeah,
maybe there's ruins there, artifacts, remnants of
yeah,
civilizations. I mean, you know, this stuff has happened. I mean, we find all sorts of, like, sunken cities under the ocean. So,
yeah,
this is not like this shouldn't be some, like, mind-blowing thing because, like, this happens. I mean, the top of Lake Titicaca, it's what, 13,000 feet in the air or something like that, and
yeah,
they found seashells in it, which
yeah,
means that at some point, that was an ocean,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's 13,000 feet in the air, so, I mean, the Earth has gone through some pretty massive changes. Um, and then obviously you have the whole West Coast, which I think this is very dramatic because the that's why I don't like to show this map because then people see this and like, "Oh my god." But in the remote viewing data, um, he said that California is wet, especially along the coast, but that you didn't see it like this. This is way more dramatic in this map than, what probably might happen. So,
yeah. I mean, that's pretty dramatic over there.
this is based more off like a pole shift. Um,
Mhm.
the so here's where the data from the remote viewing gets kind of interesting because he remote viewed 2050 and 2060, but when he did 2060, he found out like, he was like, "None of this is making sense because it's too far out." So he did 2050. I wish he would do 2040, maybe he's working on it, but 2050 a lot of the people there, so the impression they got was that they were on the other side of some big thing. They
Right.
couldn't they couldn't tell what, because the people, it's not like you're having a conversation with
Right.
somebody in the future and you go, "Oh, tell me now, tell me now."
Yeah,
This is just based on data.
yeah.
But he
It's just
said
a snapshot.
mhm,
It's like an instant.
yes, exactly, just what they're feeling and seeing
Yeah,
right then and there. Like, they
yeah,
don't, like, move around, it's not like
right.
taking control of a character in a game or anything. But, a lot of people, because sometimes you just get feelings. Like, remote viewing is
Yeah,
less about seeing and it's more about feeling. You're getting data from,
yeah,
like, you're moving from your little perception bubble, which is here. You're moving it to some other
yeah,
location in space and time,
yeah.
and you're pulling data from that area. Say things like, this is one of the big hits they got, they drilled down on, was that people said, had the feeling that they were on the other side of the big thing, some big thing, and he's able to go back to the data and figure out that as far as he can pinpoint it, from 2040 to 2045, somewhere in that window, um, something big happened. And
Mm.
he doesn't know if it's one thing, or he said he's leaning more towards what he calls a polycrisis, meaning there's just all these things building, and he thinks it's ecological, meaning like like Earth itself is kind of doing like a cleanse or a detox, and that is the primary thing that,
Like a Carrington event or like
I don't
Earth,
know.
like pole shift kinda or
So, I don't think as a Carrington in the sense that, like, our
or
grids
just
get
'cause
fried and stuff.
the sun's going crazy
It
too,
is, but at the same time, he talks a lot about, the technology in the future, and there is, like, a technological infrastructure. Um, he goes into, like I mentioned in the video, how he said not really in the future. I had a lot of people send me questions on that, like, "What do you mean there's no airplanes?" And it's like, "Well, he didn't say there's no airplanes or air travel." What he said is that it's not used the way it is now. There's not these, like, busy airports and you go and hop a flight.
and people don't get stuck in airports for 30 hours.
No, we might not have to sleep in an airport in the future, Sarah.
They
So
are portals. Sometimes you get lost for a day and a half.
it happens, especially when you're dumb enough to travel on Labor Day.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
great. It was an
Anyway, um, yes, so that's not a thing as much anymore because in the future, evidently, he said that you have this system that you actually jack your nervous system into, like a Neuralink type, and it projects your consciousness into these, like, virtual rooms. So, kinda, yeah, and that, so, like, meetings and stuff, so imagine, like, a virtual reality, but instead of putting on a headset, you can literally, like, project your consciousness somewhere.
So is it like going to the park? Like,
Um,
like that's a place that people go and
yeah,
meet,
but that's, like,
right?
an actual place in the astral world. What we're talking about here is, like, a virtual world. Imagine taking your consciousness, instead of going astral traveling, like, to, like, the park, instead, it takes it, like, somehow, I don't know, like I said, this none of this technology has been invented yet, so we're guessing. He said that they described, like, this thing that you put on, and it basically takes your consciousness, your awareness, and puts it in, like, a virtual space, and other people can join that virtual space. You have, like, Zoom meetings, but in this, like, digital astral world type thing.
That feels a little weird.
Yeah, it's
I don't
very freaking
know
weird,
how I
but
feel about my conscious.
can't you see it going there? I mean, look at Mark Zuckerberg and his new curly
Yeah,
hair and what he's doing with, like, Musk and everybody, like,
yeah,
this is where it's going.
yeah,
Doesn't mean
I
you
can
have to do
see
these
it,
things, but I
yeah.
can definitely see it. And,
So you can, like, also do that with retreats to, like, Costa Rica to do your
yeah,
ayahuasca,
yeah.
but
So here's what I'm thinking. So, when we had COVID and they basically locked everyone down and they said, "Okay, you can't go and move around
yeah,
because you're locked down, but hey, here's Zoom, so you can do your meetings in school and everything else." Imagine in the future if the planet is just fucked, like, that's kind of the picture he's painting, is that there's, like, a lot of storms, a lot of flooding, a lot of, like, volatile stuff, and he talked about specifically, like, the Midwest of America had so many violent tornadoes that he said it was unlivable. It was basically just tornado after tornado. They would rebuild a city and it would wipe it out again, so
yeah,
that they just moved out of the Midwest. So imagine the weather and everything's just so severe that, like, say, the government, or if we have some sort of world government at that point, is basically like, "Okay, guys, like, no more air travel." Like,
yeah,
these he said in the future, there's no internal combustion engines. Everything's electric. Well,
okay,
electric airplanes just aren't powerful
yeah,
enough to take, 300 people and all their luggage around the world for stupid stuff. Most people travel for meetings and stuff. So imagine if the world was like, "Okay, we don't need everyone just traveling around polluting and making matters worse. So we're locking everyone down, you have your little Neuralink and you can do your little virtual meetings," right? I kinda see that situation. situation where air travel is restricted to, like, maybe the rich, maybe the politicians, things like that, but not just for, like, you and me, right? That's kind of the picture he painted. So air travel still exists, just in a very limited form, maybe even like electric planes, which are gonna be smaller and lighter, not carry as many people, not go as far. So probably like a very limited form of air travel. That's the impression that I got. So, we'll see. So somebody asked if we're moving to a safe zone. Um, you know, I love where we live, so we'll just get some floating things, hope for the best probably, but, in all honesty, I look at things like just to go into the prepper side a little bit. I'm looking to get like a conversion. I wanna have we wanna have a van so that we can like travel around the country and do fun stuff. And I see that as kind of like it's like a bug out bag on wheels, right? So it's like, hey, I can't predict the future, but I like where we live. So who knows? Maybe we
We'll
move
stick
somewhere, but
around as long as we can. It's worth it.
yeah. But at least if we had like a nice van, then it's like, okay, you always have a home sort of, you know what I mean? Like, you can
Mhm. A place for the cat.
yeah, an off grid sort of a thing. So I see, like, doing smart things like that instead of panicking and being like, "Oh, shit, let's move to the mountains, run for the hills." I'm gonna kinda play it like, "Okay, let's just enjoy our life, have some fun, but let's get a conversion van too."
Yeah,
Because if we had to, like, get out
yeah,
of Dodge, at least we could.
doesn't hurt.
So or maybe we can get like you know, in the future when we're rich, we can get like a second home in the mountains, and then, rent it out when we're not there, and if we need to scramble there, we can just tell our tenants, "Hey, we're moving in. We're all gonna be roomies, right?"
There you go.
Okay, we'll figure something out. But no, we don't have any plans to move from Florida. We were out, we woke up at, like, the butt crack of dawn today and went out to the beach, paddle event, and we paddle boarded and swim in the ocean, chased dolphins. I was literally chasing dolphins, paddling as fast as I could to catch up with that damn dolphin, and, listening to music on the dock and, just had ourselves a delightful day, so, um, yeah.
Pretty hard to beat.
It would take a lot to get us out of here. But I do pay attention to this stuff because I'm not stupid. And if I was in South Florida, maybe Miami or Fort Lauderdale, I don't know, I might take it a little more seriously because it's a lot harder. We're up in the Panhandle, so we've had to evacuate several times. We've had some pretty gnarly hurricanes come through here. And, I mean, Hurricane Michael, I think is the biggest hurricane technically to ever hit America, um, hit 20 miles from here. Uh, we are in a mandatory evacuation then. So we have to run from hurricanes pretty often. It's pretty easy to get out of where we are because we're up in the Panhandle. You can just shoot up. So, and these things that are happening, he did say that most of these are it's gradual over time, but they start to happen quick and they start to stack up. So it's not like just one day there's a tsunami and everything's underwater. It really is like a gradual thing, but it seems like it's gradual and then it hits a tipping point and then it's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it takes a while for the cleanup after, you know, any major storm, much less a hurricane
yeah.
or a tornado, you know?
He specifically spoke to that, like, as these storms get more severe, insurance companies get worse and they start to, like,
Mhm,
kinda collapse, that what happens is when things get wiped out, they don't rebuild. It's just like
mhm.
it gets wiped out and people just move, and then that place just kinda ceases to exist, they
Yeah.
move somewhere else.
Well, I mean, like, whenever it was the anniversary of Katrina this year, and there were some really, interesting documentaries that came out, but that was, like, a big part of it was that people were moved away, and then they didn't get back, you
Yeah,
know? So, like, we lived in Dallas at the time. I remember people coming to the convention center. Houston got a bunch of people, and a lot of
mhm,
those people weren't in the position to then get themselves back to New Orleans, and there wasn't any place to go back to for them,
yeah,
you know? So, like, it's kinda crazy to think about, but, like, that's
yeah,
when those storms, like, stack over and over and over and you have to move away from the area, like, you start to rebuild your life somewhere else.
imagine if, like, an entire area is wiped out, the federal government in its current form, like FEMA and those types of things to come in and rebuild it, companies at that point, they're like, "What do you want us to do?" Because they're just one catastrophe away from being, insolvent anyways, most of them. So, you can see a situation where a major storm hits the place, does a lot of damage, the government doesn't build it back, the insurance companies don't build it back, and people just leave, don't come back. He says that in the Midwest, like, Oklahoma, Kansas, that area, that happens a lot, and he said that basically the Midwest turns into like a almost like a constant tornado, and that it's just unlivable. It's the same with the Southwest, that they run out of water and that it's completely, barren. They can't get water, and, it's incredibly hot. You're even seeing that now, like, people
Yeah,
tell me that live in, like, Phoenix and stuff, they're like, "If I wanna go run after, like, 4 in the morning
yeah,
in the summer,"
yeah,
because they're like, as soon as the sun comes up, it's too hot to do anything. So,
yeah,
he even talked about people saw domes in that part. So
yeah,
when there were cities that actually had domes over
yeah.
them.
I would
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's totally reasonable to think of.
Alright. What else we got here, friends?
It's questions.
Yep, we have a lot of Florida peeps, I know. It's the best state, man. I mean, you're gonna have to pull me out of here, so, I don't wanna report on any of this. You know, I'm hoping all this is wrong, trust me, I'm not a doom and gloom person, you know? This is not stuff I want to be reporting on, and hey, none of this is certainties. These are all probabilities and possibilities. Stu's already up in Pacific Northwest. You're good, brother. Stay put. I haven't made it up there yet, but I hear good things about it. A lot of Bigfoots up there, so we might have to go up there, babe. Go camping.
Do they refer to it as Bigfoot up there? I know, like, regionally, they have different names for them.
I don't know, Stu. Do y'all call it Bigfoot or do you call it something else? Y'all have, like, a local homey name for it? Alright, so what about the email questions? Do you have anything in there?
Okay. Which of, Schwartz's past hits, AIDS, USSR collapse, terrorism, do you find most convincing? Why?
Um, okay, so she asked, like so he before he did the 2050, he actually back in the Cold War days, the naval officer of intelligence brought him in to, like, a classified project to remote view the future. This is back in the '80s, I think, early '80s, late '70s. And they were convinced that us and Russia were gonna wipe each other out in a nuclear war. So that's what they brought him, and they had him put together a team of remote viewers and like, "Okay, remote view the future," because at that point, he had established himself as a very good remote viewer. He was finding, he was an archaeological remote viewer, shipwrecks and, ancient tombs and
Yeah,
lost civilizations. It's really cool. He wrote many books on this. It's so fascinating. Um, so he was remote viewing the future because they were convinced that a nuclear war was gonna happen. They were like, "Do any of us survive?" That was all they wanted to know. So back then, it was like, "Sure, us and Russia are just gonna annihilate each other." And he came back, he's like, "No." He's like, "No reports, no data, no evidence of a nuclear war." And they're like, "What? Obviously, you don't know what you're talking about." And they're like, "So what did you find out?" And, so they asked him about the future of Russia. They're like, "Okay, what's the future of Russia and American relations?" And he was like, "Well, there isn't." Or it was the USSR.
yeah,
He was like, "There is no USSR." It's like it ceases to
yeah.
exist. They're like, "What do you mean?" It's like the 2nd most powerful nation in the
Yeah.
world. We're, it's by, you know,
The
like
Beatles wrote a song about it.
so his reporting was that the USSR collapsed and that it ceased to exist in its current form, and they thought that that was complete nonsense, and, then it happened. So I thought that was really telling because if you're gonna make something up, you're gonna make something up that's probable, so there's a good
Mhm.
chance it's gonna happen,
Yeah,
and he had to tell them this in the official report years and years before it actually happened. So he had to tell them something that he knows sounds ridiculous, you
yeah,
know, and stand by it, put
yeah.
his name on it, and then it happened. So that I thought was pretty impressive.
Okay, they said Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Yes.
Alright. I like Sasquatch better anyway.
Energy shifter. What did you ask?
So my mic's going in and out. Some people said, "I went and I got a, range extender amplifier thing for my Wi-Fi, and then I ran up to the store right before this, and I came home and I hooked it up and did all the stuff, and it didn't freaking work." It made it worse. So, sorry, by next week, I will have a, extender thing because this part of the house doesn't get good Wi-Fi, and my computer keeps telling me my signal's low, so if y'all It seems like it's going in and out, that's why. So I'll have it fixed by next week.
Working through the technical
We're getting there.
difficulties. Um, did you wanna scroll down and see if there were some on there?
Yeah, I am. Somebody asked me what I think about Jesse Michaels. I love Jesse Michaels. So I like him a whole lot. I know he's speculative a lot, but so am I. Um, and, he's got a great brain, and I love his curiosity and his enthusiasm. He's like a little kid. He's like, you know, traveling all over the world. He's like, "Oh, what kinda crazy shit are we gonna talk about next?" Yeah. If I could be Jesse Michaels when I grow up, I would. And yeah, someone mentioned the eclipse tonight is or wait, tomorrow night
Right.
is the closure of eclipse season or the conclusion of this eclipse season. I know it kind of carries on for a few days afterwards. It's not like a hard close, but the eclipse season was this one was what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something
Yeah, it
like
was
that?
from the full moon to this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, 2 weeks, so basically full moon to this new moon, and it was wild, guys, like, holy shit, look at how much stuff happened in the last couple weeks,
Yeah, it's
and
very
everyone said the eclipse
intense.
season's coming, it's gonna get weird, and this has been probably the weirdest 2 weeks we've had in a long time, and
Yeah.
that's saying something. Yeah, this world is bananas, but, last couple weeks was extra bananas, so we just gotta make it through tomorrow. Let's just everyone behave. 24 hours, 'kay? Have faith in y'all.
We got we got
Energy Shifter says, "Should I keep my silly question myself?" No, we thrive on silly questions. Okay. I know, I know. So
Okay.
our sound isn't good. I know. I can't do anything about it right now. I'll get that thing, and it'll be better next week. Alright. Wanna read another one from the email?
Okay. What are the strongest pieces of evidence that the 2040-2045 polycrisis window is actually likely?
Oh, most likely evidence that the poly well, I mean, if you look at it, like, think about how many like, I don't wanna say crises, but think about how many things are, like, brewing, you know what I mean? Like, every other day, so people are like, "Oh, are we gonna have World War III?" And then people are, like, talking about, "Oh, the climate," you know, "Oh, is the financial system gonna collapse?" Like, "Oh, is" you know what I mean? Like, it's like there's so many things that are just hanging on by a thread. So it's like,
Yeah,
well, if one of those things happens, right, we can bounce back, you know? If 2 of them happen, maybe we can bounce back, but if, like if all of these things like, think about AI, you know, skyrocketing unemployment and stuff like that, you know, and
yeah,
then talk about, like, okay, maybe the banks collapse and the financial system collapses, okay. And he talks about the, you know, the hospital system with superbugs. We're already seeing the, you know, antibiotic resistant bugs and everything. You know, then he talks about, like, the climate, you know, collapse and the, um, it's called AMOC, AMOC. That's the current in the ocean, leading to the melting of the glaciers and the rising of sea level. That's already happening. And then, you know, so it just goes on and on. So we're seeing these things building already.
yeah.
So, like, it's not like this isn't
Super
crazy to think like, you know, we don't even need for a poly crisis. We don't need for all to happen. Like, this world isn't strong enough right now to handle, I would say, more than 2 of those. Like, you know, um, so it's like that's kind of, you know, I like that question, but you know, the way I see it is that, like, we have so many of these crises that are building, and it's right now we can have them contained, but, you know, we can't let
Yep,
them keep building. We have to start actually, like, doing something about each one
yeah,
instead of just kicking the can and hoping
yeah,
it goes away. We have to start fixing the
yeah,
problems, you know?
100%.
And hopefully we got some smart people out there and technology is really coming along, so I'm hoping that, you know, maybe AI bails us out. Maybe we can say, "Hey, AI, do an audit of this world and tell us how to fix it." And then we can just go down the list, right? We can do that, right?
Let's see. Okay. Schwartz says superbug pandemic could collapse hospitals. What everyday health habits or tech listeners prioritize now.
Um, yeah, so he talked about and this was really cool because okay, I won't say cool. Um, there's always a before and after, so you have to remember that, like, he talks about the collapse of the hospital system, but it leads to a revolution in how people treat health and wellness. It leads to a more consciousness-based health system where people are using their mind to mentally heal. You know, he talks about how CRISPR is able to basically get rid of all genetic diseases and ailments. Um, so there's good things that come out of it, but in the lead up to that, he talks about how the hospital system collapses because basically of our superbugs that we're creating because people are going to the hospital so much for so many things, they're taking so many antibiotics that viruses and bacterias are like mutating and becoming very, very strong and resilient. And the stronger they get, then our antibiotics don't work anymore. So then we give people more antibiotics, which makes the bugs stronger. So we're doing this.
Yeah.
And the worst place you can be so often are hospitals because that's where these superbugs are. And, I've had people in my own family get, MRSA and things like that, and it's
Mhm. Yeah.
incredibly hard to get rid of. And just think if that, you know, grows exponentially, which is what he says happens. So, I mean, sometimes you have to go to the hospital, obviously, but the best thing you can do, this person asked for practical advice, is just take such good care of yourself that you don't have to go to the hospital unless something's wrong. Like, you know what I mean, an accident or something. Like, sometimes you just have to go and thank God they exist. But some people go a lot, and they take antibiotics a lot, and I think that that's just creating this problem that's building and building. And people in the medical industry talk about this, like the antibiotic resistant bugs and staph infections and MRSA, that kind of stuff are bad and they're getting worse.
Yeah.
So, people are already using AI to create new antibiotics, but you know, it's just kind of it's like plugging a hole, sinking
Well,
ship,
this is where you start to take a new approach to your health altogether, and it's more about wellness and getting connected to your soul and figuring out what is the root cause and preventing, inflammation in the body and, like, getting more in touch with the earth, which is what our human vessels are meant to do.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's it. And that's what he says is on the other side of this, but it's like, what if we could just get to that point without having to go through the crisis part? You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, why do we always have to punish ourselves? Why can't we just be like, "Hey, let's, you know, uh"
Uh-oh.
hold on, I gotta put me back in.
No. Sorry, guys.
New software. What happened to my thing?
I'm not sure,
Man, we were doing
but
so
there I
good.
am.
Here, turn off the camera and turn it back on real quick. Sorry, guys, I'll be right back. Just gotta flip the camera off. There we go. Turn it back on. Oh, boy.
Dinner, something similar.
Okay.
Hello. Welcome back, friend.
Okay. Keep going.
Uh, Becoming a consumer reality by 2050.
Oh, the little black cubes. Yeah. So that's super cool. So he talked about so many this is one of the things that they had to double click on because so many people reported this. And it's that everyone has these little black cubes. And it's just this like it's like the size of a Rubik's cube maybe or maybe a shoebox, right? Like somewhere in that ballpark. And people talk about how, like, so say you're in a car, you put it in the car, and then when you get home, you would take it out and you put it in the house. That was the impression that they
Yeah,
got, you know, because they're not actually driving around and stuff. Like, this is the impression they got from remote viewing, is that you have this black cube that's your personal energy device, I guess. Instead of your car having gas to go, your house having electricity running, and everything has different electrical sources, you have this cube that powers everything, and it's your personal energy cube. And so I started looking into this because they described it as warm but not hot, and things like that. And they go into detail. And then he's elaborated a couple times on some podcast about it. And there's something called LENR, which is low energy nuclear reaction, which basically means that things like nuclear fusion, which are normally super hot, like the sun, um, they figured out theoretically a way to do like room temperature nuclear reactions. So instead of it being super hot like the sun, it's room temperature, right? And you can theoretically have a little bit of power go into it and a ton of power come out of it. And they even found a way to have like the power sort of recycle into it. So some of the power that it produces goes back in running it, so it's like it runs itself. And this is something they're already working on. It's called LENR, like LENR, low energy nuclear reactions. Yeah. Yeah. So the most likely candidate for these little black cubes is LENR, but we don't know. And that's why when I was at the symposium, I asked him that question, but he wouldn't tell me exactly. But I'm pretty sure it's a form of LENR. So, what was the question specifically?
like, see it becoming an actual reality.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're on the they're on the cusp of a ton of different, like, energy breakthroughs. So, he was very adamant about that, like, internal combustion engines, gas-powered things, coal-powered things do not exist in 2050. That's just they don't. So, obviously, we're gonna have to have a different power source. Think about people like Elon Musk. I mean, he's very adamant to replace all internal combustion engines, besides maybe rockets. So, it's it's gonna happen. I mean, I think it'll happen way sooner. I mean, we were probably talking 5, 10 years, nothing will be gas powered anymore, you know? That's just what I see because
Maybe
it's
they're trying.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
happening fast.
Alright, let's see. Mhm. Never get sick, but tell myself that I'm healthy all the time. Mind over matter. Very much. Words hold a lot of power. Uh, do either of us remote view? I've not heard Jordan say either way.
Yeah. So it's not something I do all the time. Like, so when I was at the Monroe Institute, I learned how to do it. They taught us, and then they brought in Joe McMonagle, who privately taught us. It was amazing. And so I remote viewed there and nailed my first target to the point where it like blew my mind and made me start questioning like all the things. Is it remote viewing? Is it precognition? Like what exactly is happening? And in my first episode this week on Tuesday, I go deep into what I think remote viewing actually is. And
Mhm.
the way I look at it is different than most people. Um, so I absolutely do. I still train on it. I enjoy doing it because it's fun, but it's not really practical because the way remote viewing works is very um, it's not how people think. People think, they'll tell me all the time, "Why don't you just remote view 3-eye atlas or something like that?" And it's like, so remote viewing is not like it's not remote and it's not viewing. So it's this weird word. I don't know why they call it that. But you don't actually see. Well, you do see stuff sometimes, but like it's more sensory information. So you get feelings, sometimes you smell stuff, sometimes you hear stuff, sometimes you. So you're getting data information, and you're kind of drawing, doodling, sketching, all your data impressions that you get, and you don't really know if you're accurate or not until the target's been revealed. So when you're remote viewing something that there's no way to really prove and show a target, then you never know if you're right or wrong. So if someone's like, "Well, just remote view, 2040." Like, "Well, I can remote view 2040, of course, and I
Yeah,
can give you all my data. There's no way I can prove if it's right or wrong. Like, no way until we
yeah,
get." And that's what's so cool about the Mobius thing that Stephen Schwartz does, is It's the same thing. They can't prove if this is right or wrong, but if you have 4 thou actually 6,000 people at the peak, 6,000 people remote viewing the exact same thing, and you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people say the exact same thing,
Yeah.
well, you got something. These people don't know each other, they don't
Mhm.
share information. So, of course, I can remote view stuff. Doesn't really do anybody any good, you know?
Yeah.
But we do it for fun, like, I use laser cannons, I've had, like, so much success on that, like, he does a good job of actually tying the target, um, to the coordinate. That's very, very important. So, I love his site, and, usually when I do his site, I get the stuff, you know? Like, I get really good. I have a
Yeah.
notebook, and I do my journals, and I've been pretty impressed with some of my remote viewings from there.
Yeah.
And, but even then, it's like, so say, like, it's a picture of, like, dolphins swimming, right? And I'm remote viewing it, and it's a coordinate, you don't see the picture, obviously, and this one in particular, I remember I did not too long ago, and I saw water, and I heard water, and I knew there was water, and I thought it was rocks sticking out of the water, for example. That's what I saw, and
I remember.
I saw, like, rocks and gray rocks sticking out of the water, and there was rushing water, and I wrote water, and I wrote gray rocks sticking out, and I even drew the picture of all
Uh-huh.
the rocks sticking out, and I thought it was like, like river rocks,
Yeah.
just round rocks, you know? And then when they revealed the target, it was dolphins, like
And they
spotted
were
dolphins,
jumping
and they're jumping out of the water, and so they're gray, they're
yeah,
smooth, they're coming out of the water,
the water.
so I nailed all of it, the
Yeah.
colors, the textures, like, seeing everything, but I said rocks instead of dolphins, so it's
Yeah.
like, that what good is that information really, you know what I mean? So, as much as I love remote viewing, and it is fun, and the main thing I like about it is that it opens up your mind. It makes you realize, 'cause even in that case, okay, that's still impressive because
Yeah.
I drew gray rocks in water, and then it
Yeah.
was gray dolphins in water, it's so close. So, it shows that it's possible, that you can read the information field and that, you know, anyone can do this. So, it's really exciting, and it's really fun to do. But for practical reasons, there's not
But,
a whole lot you can
like
do with, or at least I haven't figured out how to win the lottery with it or anything like that.
not yet. But, like, we both, did the Gateway experience and had 2 completely different experiences with remote viewing the
Yeah, what
same
was yours
target.
like?
Mine was super, like, emotional. Like, I felt, like, the emotion of the the people of the area,
Yeah.
and then, like, saw it from an owl's point of view, and, like,
Hmm.
I saw it through time. So, energy shift there said 2 people can remote view the same thing and see different things.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, because, like, people can remote view different points of time at the same place
Yeah.
and, like, see completely different things because, I mean, like, you think about, like, where we're sitting right now, this wasn't here 15 you know?
Well, and you're getting different data. Like, if I told you to go to this park and all you can do is smell, you can't see anything,
Mhm.
you're gonna come back and tell me something different. If I told someone to go to the park and all you can do is see, you can't smell anything, you know what I mean? So when it remote view,
Yeah,
the data comes in different ways. Some people
yeah,
don't see anything.
yeah, it's
You
kind
only get
of,
feelings.
similar to clairs, like, some people are
Yeah.
clairaudient, like, so, like, some people can see things, some people can smell things, some people can, hear things, like you said, but, like, when you apply that to remote viewing, like, because when we did Gate, it was, like, I think 22 people, and, like, every one of them had a totally different experience, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of them were like, they just saw a cylinder, you know?
Yeah. But
So
like I said, the time thing, like, there's a
mhm.
lot of, like, famous remote viewing targets that, at the time, they thought they were wrong, and then, like, later on,
Yeah,
like, you find out that, oh, like, say, for example, there was one in particular that I think was Joe McMoneagle, and he remote viewed this, military site, and, if I remember right, this is something somewhere along these lines. He came back and he said, "It's a water tower," and he drew the
yeah,
water tower and everything.
yeah,
And they were like, "No," after they reviewed everything, they're like,
yeah,
"No, sorry, that they have satellite data." I'm like, "It's not a water tower." I remember he was like, "Well, I was pretty sure on that one." Sometimes you just
yeah,
really like, the data comes in strong, and you're just like,
yeah.
"I feel confident about this." Then they found out that it was a water tower before,
Huh,
so previously it was water tower, like,
yeah,
decades ago, and then now it's something else. So, he actually got it right, but he was in a different time
yeah,
period, because when you're remote
absolutely.
viewing,
Yeah,
like, you have to be very specific with the time. If not, you sort of drift, because time
yeah,
is weird when you're in that information state, you know what I mean? So it's
100%.
yeah, that's why it's good when you're remote viewing training to do things that don't move, like mountains and, things that have been there for a long time. And so even if you slip back, a million years back, that mountain's still gonna be there. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Alright, trying to make it through all the questions here. Did Dolores Cannon mention when the Earth ascends? Didn't Monroe also say something similar? Yeah. Um, I don't think Dolores Cannon, to my knowledge, ever said when we go to the New Earth. She talked about it as if it was coming up pretty quick. I mean, she felt like that was why they were tapping into her and giving her so much information, that she was a big part of this shift. And, so she made it seem like it was definitely sooner rather than later. Robert Monroe, he talked in depth about he has a whole chapter at the end of his 2nd book, Our Journeys, about, the gathering, and if you read that I had to read it multiple times. I think I read that chapter 5 different times, and, to really read between the lines and get everything out of it. And he talks about how Earth itself is going through an ascension process, and that basically what's happening is that we have individual consciousnesses, but then there's a collective conscious, and the collective human consciousness is on its ascension path. So
Mhm.
it can ascend into a higher being, a higher collective being. So the individual can ascend to a higher, spiritual state,
Right,
like that's the whole like kind of 5D
right.
ascension, whatever you want to call it. But then the human collective consciousness can too. It can turn into kind of like this cosmic archetype. But then also Earth itself is
Right,
going through its own
right,
transformation. So you
right.
have a lot going on, you know, and it really helps everyone's on the same page because
Yeah.
if Earth, goes into its, that's what Laura's called Earth, so it
Mhm.
splits into the new Earth, which is a vibrational shift. It's not a physical split. When it shifts into the new Earth, if we're all ready to do the same thing at the same time, then
Yeah.
we'll individually shift and we'll collectively shift, and Earth will shift, and we'll all shift
Well, together.
together. That's what we want. But we're out of sync, we're not, on the same frequency, then I don't know. So that's the whole point. That's why we're all trying to get that's why people say these cliche things like raise your vibration, like that's what they mean.
Yeah.
It's not cliche, it sounds cliche and people call you new age and roll their eyes at you and stuff. That's what we're trying to do is get on the same frequency. It's like changing a radio station. Like whenever
Yeah.
Earth changes its radio station, we wanna be on that same station that it changes to,
Yeah.
you know? So you don't wanna be out of sync with Earth.
Mhm. Um, questions about remote viewing training. Where would you suggest, Jordan?
Remote viewing training.
Mhm.
There's so many different kinds of remote viewing. So, there's CRV, and that's what created. That's the controlled remote viewing. That's what most people use. That's what I was taught. Um, it's what the military uses. It's what, everyone in, like, Stargate, everybody used.
So the Monroe Institute has their own program.
Yes. Monroe Institute has a great program, that Joe McMoneagle is the consultant. He actually teaches, like, a lot of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
classes. Yeah.
yeah.
It's a really good one. That's what I learned. Then there's also, um they were just the side games, but I always forget the name, but, it's the Association Remote Viewing
Yeah.
Remote Viewing Association of America or something like that. Anyways, they do a different type, and they're really good. Um, and there's a whole lot of different people that used to be in these programs, like Lynn Buchanan, Joe McMoneagle, Paul Smith. All these people have their own personal programs that they teach people. I don't really have a favorite, you know? I basically I learned how to do this even before I went to Monroe Institute just because I was interested. I was just searching online and figuring it out. And it's really not that complicated. I mean, there is different ways,
Yeah.
training protocols and that kind of stuff. But for you just to kind of blow your own mind, you can learn it pretty easily and do it at home and practice at home.
I think the
And
biggest thing being, like, once you, like, be like, trusting your intuition on it, like, not like, second guessing yourself, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like,
they call it the AOL, the analytical overlay.
yeah,
So basically, the goal is to get all the data out as fast as possible, like, make all your sketches and your doodles and write everything down before your left brain kicks in and starts questioning everything, saying,
yeah,
"Hey, that doesn't make sense," or "Why would that be there?" It's like you gotta quiet that side and just go with it. It's automatic writing,
100%,
essentially.
100%.
maybe we should do our own, because 'cause we're both good at remote viewing. We're not, like, professionals or anything, but, like, that's the whole thing is it's not as complicated as they make it out, It really isn't. So, maybe we'll put together a little remote viewing thing, right?
Maybe
'Cause, I mean,
so.
like I talked about in Tuesday's episode, so what you do is you have to so say you have a target, say I have a picture of a car, and I want you to remote view as the target. Well, I can't show you that car. Now you know it's a car, right? What I do is I take something, a symbol, a letter, something. So say I had a piece of paper and I wrote an A on it,
Mhm,
and I would consciously entangle that car with the A by using my own mind, my intention.
mhm,
I would say, "Okay, this car and this A are completely linked." And what you do is you create this, like, hyperlink in the information field. So outside of this physical reality, there's an information field. And now I just made a hyperlink. I've connected that A with that car. Now, when you remote view the A, now you are going to get the information of the car, right? So a lot of remote viewing success comes from the setup, right? So the person that's setting up the experiment, that's you know that's hyperlinking the two objects. If they do it carefully, if they do it right, if they do it with right intention, if they do it cleanly, then the person's going to have good success.
yeah,
So I don't say I don't like sending people to random sites and apps and stuff because there's tons of apps and tons of sites, but I can't guarantee how they were set up and how the experiment is set up. So sometimes people get frustrated. They're like, "Oh, I didn't get anything." It's like, "Well, maybe it's not you. Maybe it wasn't entangled right. Maybe,
yeah, yeah,
maybe someone used a random number generator or AI or something to,
yeah,
like, do it, and they didn't use consciousness."
yeah.
So they have
Like
to be
at
set up
the
properly.
Psy Games, those pictures that they used were crazy, I couldn't even tell hardly what some
Yeah.
of them were,
They're gonna change
you
their
know?
protocol for next year because, yeah, they used, um, AI to do a lot of that stuff, and it made it a lot harder than it had to be. But it was supposed to be challenging.
It was
They were challenging.
challenging.
Yeah. Alright. What else we got, friends? Thank y'all for being for an hour with us. Um, go to, the email list and pull off one more question from the email.
Alright.
Get a good one. While she's thinking about that, I wanna hear from you guys. I'm planning out my next week's, um, talks, so, drop me a comment or send me a message of, what you guys are interested in. I've had a lot of requests to do 3-Eye Atlas. I've had a lot of requests to do, like, the pole shift, you know, things like, Jason Bashir's, I was on his show, and he talks a lot about, like, the Nemesis X event coming in 2046 and, like, Ben Dickinson, the Sun micronova, and all these things like that. So if people are interested in more future forecasting type stuff, I have a lot of opinions there. I know a lot of people are interested on 3-Eye Atlas, because that's coming around the bend here pretty quick. So, yeah, just drop me some suggestions on anything else out there you want me to cover. What'd you find, sir?
Okay. Given the probabilistic nature of these futures, what's one action that you would tell every listener to take in the next 90 days to increase their odds?
Hmm, um, okay, so you got into the probabilistic part, and that's important because, like, nothing I'm saying here, nothing that, Stephen Schwartz was saying, um, is, like, guaranteed. These aren't like, he's not saying this is gonna happen. What remote viewing does is you remote view the most probable future timeline, like, 'cause that's all the future is. Like,
Yeah,
I'm very, very convinced. Tom Campbell is very convinced. Robert Monroe is very convinced. Stephen Schwartz is very convinced. All the greatest minds are very convinced that we do not live in a deterministic world, that we have free will, and that the future might seem determined, but it's actually probabilities of possibilities, which means that ultimately we still have free will. Nothing is set in stone. There's some things that are pretty damn sure gonna happen because it's kinda like, if I'm rolling down a hill, you can guess that I'm gonna keep rolling down the hill until I hit something, right? Like, so sometimes if you've started a motion, you can basically predict the future because it's pretty obvious. But not everything's like that. So
yeah,
some things are kinda set in motion, and there's some things that we probably are gonna have to deal with, you know, because we're too late in the game. But there's also a lot of things that aren't. There's so many of these things that, like, we can fix or we can change or we can soften the blow or you can be I always use this analogy, but, we both grew up in Tornado Alley, and we'd have tornadoes come through, gnarly, nasty tornadoes that would wipe out an entire neighborhood. There'd be, like, one house, like, untouched, like,
Yeah,
perfect, you know?
every
So it's like, be that house, like, just because shit gets weird, I mean, we've had many extinction level events, on Earth, and humans are still here. Humans are tough, humans are adaptable, um, and the Earth is big. So there's always a safe place, and there's always people that are smart and prepared and that kind of stuff. So, none of this is, like, end of the world stuff. It's just Earth changes, and right now we're not being real good to Earth, so I don't even blame it for, you know, doing whatever it's gotta do, like, it's kinda like when you get the flu and your body does the whole sweat and detox and all this stuff, it's like, "Alright, I gotta get this out of me," and it gets uncomfortable. I think, like, that's what Earth is gonna do. It's gonna kind of, you know, heal itself and fix some things, and it might have to do some detoxy things, so, um, I just think positively, be prepared, but don't, like, freak out or anything. There's no reason to build a bunker or, move to a mountain just because. But, just pay attention, be prepared. But the most important thing people can do is just, like, stay calm and try to be positive. As weird as that sounds, like, 'cause it sounds kinda cliche or like, people will be like, "Oh, Jordan, you're telling us all this doom and gloom stuff, and now you want me to be positive." No, these are, like, warning signs,
yeah,
you know? So it's like, we don't have to go down that path.
yeah.
So we still can
How about those
create a better
yeah,
future, you know? And it
yeah,
starts with your behaviors, what you do, how you treat people, how you treat the earth, all those things, you know?
yeah. I think, like, also, like, looking at the parallels there between, like, your human vessel and the earth, right? So, like, I think if we all were a little kinder to our bodies and, like, a little kinder to earth, that the whole world would be a better place, like, we would all feel better. We put a lot of focus on our health here, um, doing gut resets with my fantastic friend Kathy, um, and, like, very attentive to and I think that, like, affects, like, your mental state and, like, whenever you, like, think about, like, the connection to Earth and, like, when you're in a pretty place,
Yeah,
it's like a healthy ecosystem, like, you're happier and you feel better than whenever you're, like, in a sick place on Earth, like, you also don't feel well, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you see, like, the parallels there, you know?
Well, we're made of earth, and
Yeah,
we come from the earth, The
yeah,
earth is like a docking station. It's like plugging your phone in, Like, we plug our phone in, our body, by connecting to the earth,
yeah,
Grounding, being out in nature, walking in the forest, eating healthy foods that come from the earth, like, that's how you take care of your body, and it's how you take care of the earth,
yeah,
The earth wants to support us. It
yeah,
wants
exactly.
so
So if we're not doing the same back, right? And
exactly.
for our
Yeah,
vessels as well.
yep, what it's all about. Wanna let your cat in?
Yeah.
He's not gonna stop. The cat wants to join the show, guys. Hey, Soul. Yeah, we got a little furry invader. But yeah, I mean, like, I know a lot of prepper people because, like, I'm interested in that because the world's wild and because I live in Florida, so you always have to be prepared. We prep enough to, like, to where, we're okay for a little while and stuff. But one thing I don't ever see talked about in the prepper world is people's, like, mental health and stuff like that. Like, so people are like, "Oh, I got" 20 boxes of ammo and tons of rice and beans and batteries and fuel and stuff. It's like, "Cool. Well, like, how are you upstairs?" You know what I mean? Like, because if stuff gets weird, you have to be able to mentally adapt. You have to be mentally resilient, emotionally stable, and these are things that are
Yeah,
very important.
yeah,
And, so I think people need to spend more time on that, like, taking care of yourself. This is a great time to, like,
yep,
do all that uncomfortable house cleaning
yep,
that you've been putting off for decades and decades, I think it's important to do all that so that you're kind of lighter, you don't have all that baggage and, you're more resilient and adaptable. Because whenever things happen, the people that fare the best are the people that make quick decisions, can, adapt and can, stay clear-headed, do
Yeah,
crazy stuff. You
yeah.
don't get swept up in emotions, you don't,
Hey,
you know
man, uh, 38 hours in a airport will test your patience, but, I mean, I smiled through the whole thing. There were
yeah,
plenty of people that were losing their minds, but it's what
well,
you make of it
I
as
saw a lot of
well. Yeah.
meltdowns. Yeah. Airports are great people watching. Go to an airport, one of the busiest airports in the world when they shut down the entire
For a
and
couple
then
days.
people watch. It's fun.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, just, I mean, in addition to all the normal stuff, I would also, take this time to just get in touch with yourself, your higher self. Um, a course that I've been working on, I wasn't gonna plug this because I don't normally, but, I have a course called Soul Sync I've been working on for literally 2 years, and we are doing the final recordings of it tomorrow, and it's gonna be out anytime now. I'll keep you guys posted, because I'm very excited about it. The whole point of this course is to do just that. It's it's you take I won't go into the whole thing. It's essentially all the things we were just talking about,
Mhm.
taking
Yeah.
care of your human self and your higher self. So anyways, I think it's very timely. I think that there's a reason why I wanted to put this out 2 years ago, and the universe had different plans for me, um, because I think now's the time. So anyways, uh, my thing is all scrambled now. Um, or do the there you go. I gotta retrain it. Hey! Okay. Sorry, the cat came in and everything went south. Anyways, let's see. Let's end on a high note. What do we got? What do we got? Travis said connecting to your higher self. That's a very good one. I will do a deep dive on that. Thank you for that suggestion. Energy shifter said blood types and purpose. I love this one. I've had
Very good.
so many people ask
Yeah.
me to do like an RH negative one. Um, I have a lot of spicy stuff there. Um, so those are two good ones, connecting to the higher self and blood types and purpose. So, what SoulSync does, this course I'm creating, is it's the realization that we are 2 things in one. You're a higher self and a human self, and that each one has its own things. Like your human self basically has wants, needs, desires, and skills. The human self is like a vehicle that the higher self enters into to have this physical experience. But your higher self, which is pure consciousness, it also has like a to-do list, of missions that it comes here to do. So we figure out through the course exactly what your human self and your higher self want and need, and then we synchronize those, and it brings harmony to your vessel, and it makes you feel, at peace in your home, and it's really great. And it also identifies your purpose because higher self and purpose go hand in hand. Like I said, your higher self comes in with a purpose. So we go into depth about how to connect um, clearly and consistently with your higher self. And Sarah's the master there. So yeah, so be looking forward to not just soul sync, but me talking a lot more about these things because it's incredibly important. I call your higher self the ChatGPT for your soul. It's like and I only say that because not because it's AI, but because you can ask questions, get answers. And literally, when you get really good and you have a clear connection with your higher self, you can just ask a question and get an answer, you know? And it's life changing because usually the answer you get is the exact thing that you need to hear to overcome a health problem or, you know, a struggle in life, or you just need that like aha moment that you've been, yeah, after. I mean, whatever it is, your higher self usually can give you the exact information you need. You just have to be able to ask. It's like AI, it doesn't just tell you stuff.
Yeah.
Ask. You have to ask the
You
right way.
have to ask
You
in
have
the
to
right way.
receive in the right way.
You have to clear your mind and actually connect. You have to be, like, receptive to the different ways the messages come through, you know?
Yep.
And there's a lot to it.
There is, but it's also simple. It's not
Well, yeah,
hard or
I'm not
anything, and
saying
and
it's
we
hard. I'm
simplify
just
the
saying
heck out of it.
there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah, but all the things you said are very, very important. Um,
It's got the zoomies locked.
yeah. Cat has a Zoom meeting, he's locked in this little room, so this is funny. Um, Anybody out there have cats? So, someone says smiling is the best. Yeah, it is. That's why I don't go to Walmart. I went tonight just for this show.
You did.
The thing I bought was broken, and I'll never go back.
Yeah, sounds about right. Would you like to sit in my chair? Why upset?
Alright.
Okay.
So let's do one more question, guys, and I'll let you all go. and we'll do this every Saturday, of course, and once we get this system, um freaking cat. Um, if I didn't let him in, he woulda just sat there and meowed, so, anywho, um, he stole Sarah's chair. You'll look at an empty mic for the next couple minutes. Um, 2 cats, Potato and Charlotte. I like it, Jennifer. Potato. Alright. Hmm. So, let's see. Alright, yeah, and if you guys someone reminded me, yeah, the like button, all that stuff, we're getting some traction here, and I got some exciting things coming. I'm lining up some interviews. I know most of my podcasts are just walk and talks with me, but, I'm lining up, a couple interviews that I'm crazy excited about that are gonna be, like, big. So, um, I really, appreciate everyone's help and supporting and sharing and all that fun stuff, you know? My
Like,
goal is to
share,
kind of, like,
subscribe.
do all my walk and talks and get the thing to a point where I felt confident to, like, reach out to people that I wanted to interview, um, and then, that way they look at the podcast and go, "Okay, got a little something going on here, of course I'll come on." 'Cause there's people that I wanna talk to in the world that I know I can ask them the questions that are gonna get, like, earth-shaking answers, and I know that I can talk to certain people. There's people that I have on my short list that I'm like, "If I can get in front of you, we can change the world."
You asked
So
really, really good
and, yeah, so I'm very excited about some things coming up, and,
I
so
always push him to jump up and ask questions. He's like, "Other people wanna ask questions too."
at conferences and
Yeah,
stuff, yeah.
but you ask really good questions and people, like, even the person being asked
Yeah,
is like, "Oh, this is a good question. This is a good conversation."
yeah.
You know?
They wanna talk about new stuff too. They
Not the same
always
questions
say the
over
same
and
stuff
over.
over and over, yeah. They like those curveballs, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Think
So,
on your feet,
yeah.
friends.
Yeah, the channel is growing, it's doing really good, and I'm very excited about everything, and, it's all 'cause of y'all, so thank you very much for doing all this stuff, for helping me grow. It really helped a lot, like, with the algorithms and stuff, like, sharing it and
Yeah.
all this. That's why people say, "Share, like, subscribe." They do that 'cause it actually works. If you don't
Yep.
if that's how you
Yep.
grow.
Yep.
It doesn't
What
matter,
helps
like,
the
the quality of
algorithm.
your
Yeah.
content. There's lots of people out there with amazing content and tiny
Yeah.
channels, and it's because people aren't sharing it, they're not, like,
Engaging.
interacting and engaging. Yeah, that really is the game changer.
And there's a new thing called hype. I don't really know, but you can hype certain amount of times for free each week. You just go in and pick a video and
It's
hype
like
it.
bonus points or
Yeah,
something.
it pushes it out a little extra. So, we'll just do all the things
So Jay
and keep,
Livermore.
you know, reiterating my little mantra, fastest growing podcast in America.
Yeah.
Can't do it without you.
That's funny. I do human design readings too, but I don't do traditional ones. So anyways, I have a sidereal method that I use for human design. It's way more accurate. So if anybody ever wants a, human design reading, hit me up because this will blow your mind. Even if you've already done human design readings, even if you know your human design, it can blow your mind. But when I was talking to this girl the other day, I was doing her reading, and, she was asking me about, like, my type and stuff, and it's funny because like, when I realized about my type and about how I am as a person, I was like she was like, "She's this big person, huge audience, big influencer and everything." And, it's funny because she's just like, "Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this?" These are all things she does.
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, those are things you do, but that's not my type. Like, when I do those things, it makes me uncomfortable." Um, and she was basically like, "So how are you gonna grow?" And I was like, "Well, my strategy, it's not the best strategy in the
Magic.
world, is if I can get on super duper gigantic in front of gigantic audiences, like, let's say I got on the Joe Rogan show, then I can nonchalantly promote myself in a way that I'm comfortable with because the audience is so big, then it will actually work. It'll be an effective way of promotion because I can do it in my own little nonchalant, you know, way.
Alright, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and have an impact because I'm not the kind of person that, like, I don't know, I have a hard time doing self-promotion, and I know if y'all follow me, you might be like, "What? You're always promoting yourself." I'm, like, forcing all that. It's like a forced thing, and I don't like doing it. But, anyways, my ultimate goal, because I've been called to do soul cycling, not called by me, I've been called by something else to do this. This has been something that's been coming through me for years, and it's supposed to come out now, and I was actually confirmed this today in a very weird conversation that I had with somebody. Um, and, so I know this is supposed to happen, but I can't just, like, go out there and run Google Ads and talk about myself and everything that's weird, you know? I'm like, "Okay, I have this idea in my head. I'm gonna do this podcast ladder thing where I'm gonna get on one big podcast, I'm gonna use that as leverage, get on another, use that leverage, get another one." I had a call today for a message today about getting on a really big podcast. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, it can be a huge deal because it's like he's only a couple degrees of separation
Yeah,
from Joe
yeah,
Rogan, they're, like, good
yeah.
friends. He's one of his comedian buddies that hangs out with Joe Rogan all the time. So, I'm like, "Okay, this might happen." So anyways, I know y'all didn't ask, but, that's that's my plan. That's my marketing plan for my course. Get on Joe Rogan nonchalantly, um, mention it, and then, uh, yes,
Yes, yes.
yes, that's my plan.
Nonchalant.
It's funny because 'cause I'm actually a marketing consultant. I consult all sorts of different businesses and people on how to run their business and how to do marketing. So I actually know how to do marketing. I'm good at it. And this is a terrible strategy. I would never in a million years tell anyone to do this, but it's the only thing that works for me. So here we go.
Alright, well, um, looks like you have a couple people that are interested in reading. How would you like for them to get a hold of
Oh yeah. Um, so I have a page on my website. I don't think I have it. I don't think it's connected to my main page. I got real busy with readings, and I actually took the page off because people were finding me just other ways promote it, so I'll put it back on there. So anyways, I'll send it if y'all are on my email list, join my email list if you're not, and I'll send out a, direct link there, and then I'll put the page back on my website. I just have a coaching page on there. It has all the information, and you just book directly on there, so it's very easy. I had it on there. I did a podcast, I don't know, earlier this summer, remember, and I
Mhm.
got super slammed with coaching, which was actually a lot of fun, but, like, it was, like, so much at once, so I actually took the page off my website, um, and I never put it back. I need to do that now. But, yeah, it's really cool, and I'll actually do a video on human design because it definitely deserves its own, podcast episode. It's the most fascinating thing ever. So,
Absolutely.
yep. Alright,
Alright.
everybody. Y'all are awesome.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and, seriously, like, leave me some suggestions, on this or somewhere else about videos that y'all see. I got some good ones, today. I do 2 videos a week. I try to keep each week kind of themed, so the videos are more or less in general world, um, and, yeah, that way on Saturdays when we talk about it, it's not all over the place, even though still managed to
Well, we
be all over
skipped
the
a
place, but
few weeks of lives, so we
yeah,
get to cover plasma yet or
yeah,
any of that, so
yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
yeah.
But, yep, so I do 2 episodes a week at least, and, I need lots of content, so keep the ideas coming, guys. And thank
Yeah,
y'all for tuning in tonight. I'll see y'all on Tuesday, and if I don't see you before then, everyone have a great rest of the weekend, and remember, one more day left for eclipse season.
yeah.
So, um,
Hang on till
yeah,
Monday,
keep your shit together
friends.
out there, guys. Yeah, one day to go, and then it's gonna be, I think, a lot smoother. Alright. Love you
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Peace.
Good night.